Hello everyone and welcome back to the Bookshelf Odyssey. My name is Art and I'm the host of the show. So if you're joining me on the podcast side, welcome and welcome back. And if you're on the YouTube channel, hello, it's good to see you. Well, I can't really see you, but you know how it goes. So today we're getting into chapters 11 through 13 of Great Expectations, and very interesting chapters. A lot of questions have come up in these three chapters that I actually can't remember the answer to all of them. So I'm kind of excited about it, that there's some plot lines that I think I remember, but I can't. No, I'm not sure. So that'll be fun to see how that turns out. So this video is going up on Friday. It's probably going to be a little later in the day, obviously, since you're watching it. Yeah, this week was a little nuts, but I do have some tea with me today, and I've got a special cup that I designed. If you can see that, I thought, wouldn't it be great to have a fake sponsor? So today's episode is sponsored by the Satis House Bed and Breakfast. So there you go. If you want a souvenir of our time together through this book, the link is in the show notes. I just designed that and it's up in my Etsy store. So enjoy. But one thing I am enjoying is some great tea. This is not a sponsor, by the way. I know this is all coming across like a commercial, but I got this tea for Christmas. I'm not actually sure what it's called, but they're like Dickens novel themed teas. And I saw that and I thought that'd be really fun. They're loose leaf tea from, I guess they came in from England. But so I had to get one of those tea infusers, one of those mesh balls to make my tea with. But this is really good. And I've been sampling the Christmas Carol flavor too. But I thought this would be appropriate. Great Expectations flavored tea. It doesn't taste like the marsh, so that's good, I guess. I think the ingredients are Chinese jasmine white tea, has some caffeine in it, and it's great. It's really good. But yeah, I really enjoyed the two I've had. And again, not a sponsor of the podcast, just I really enjoyed that. And you can find them online. Just Google. That's what I did. I Googled and put it on my Christmas list, and I got it for Christmas. So I'm enjoying that. All right. I'm not sure I have much in the way of housekeeping today before we get going. One or two things to follow up with from the last reading. On our Voxer channel, where the majority of our conversation has been lately, Lisa there commented that Estella needs a good whipping. She is mean and arrogant with a wicked tongue. Words are so powerful, and hers quickly hurt Pip. He sees himself in light of disdain. Why should he have even noticed his boots before? Weren't they useful and suited to him in the past? Now they are something to be ashamed of. So sad, and could lead him down the wrong path in the future. How can one meet such expectations from two disdainful, bitter women? And that was a really great thought. And I think we're going to see more of that in our reading today. And then she's commented about part 6 that Lisa said that he is truly about Joe, that he's truly a good friend and father to Pip with great wisdom. Lies will never serve you well. And I wonder how much time has passed between Pip taking the file and then seeing it again in the pub. I think it's been about a year or two. And then Carol commented that she loved Pip's instinctual way of protecting Miss Havisham's privacy or honor, rather than relating noteworthy information that was only going to be used for gossip. He did this even when faced with abuse for not cooperating. He knew what he was doing. Pip can be my friend any day. And I love that thought. And I've been thinking about that he helped protect her privacy. I was thinking more about what is his motivation for that? Is he showing her some grace like perhaps Joe would have? Or is it more for selfishly motivated reasons that maybe he doesn't want them to know? Maybe it's none of their business. Although I think the text said that he didn't think they would believe him anyway if he told the truth, so he might as well lie. So that's, that's part of the motivation anyway. But I like the idea that maybe his instinct is to protect her. and to protect her privacy. Now, maybe that was part of it. Anyway, it was a good thought. I've been really pondering on that one. Anyway, we've had some great chat. I think we kind of talked a little bit about Jane Austen as well in the chat there. So if you are on Voxer, come on over. The Discord channel is still there, not super active since we're all seeming to kind of be congregating here on Voxer. But I'm happy to do both if the other works better for you. Okay, so grab your copy of Great Expectations and let's dive in. So part 7 covers just chapter 11. It goes back to Miss Havisham's house. And he's met at the gate by Estella, who is again very cold and disdainful towards him. They go into a gloomy room with a low ceiling, and she says, "You are to go and stand there, boy, till you are wanted." There being the window. I crossed to it and stood there in a very uncomfortable state of mind, looking out. So she's just, again, being very dismissive towards him and treating him almost like an animal, maybe? She's just not being very nice. I mean, this is Estella. We should be expected by now. So in this room as he's waiting, there are 3 women and another gentleman, and they are talking about somebody named Matthew, who they are feeling so terribly dreadful for that he must have done something. They are gossiping about him, I think. Here it says, as they speak of Matthew, this man, she says, "Poor dear soul," said this lady with an abruptness of manner quite my sister's, because she reminds him of his sister. "Nobody's enemy but his own." "It would be much more commendable to be somebody else's enemy," said the gentleman, "far more natural." "Cousin Raymond," observed another lady, "we are to love our neighbor." "Sarah Pocket," returned Cousin Raymond, "if a man is not his own neighbor, who is?" Miss Pocket laughed, and Camilla laughed and said, checking a yawn, "The idea!" But I thought they seemed to think it a rather good idea, too. The other lady, who had not spoken yet, said gravely and emphatically, "Very true." "Poor soul," Camilla presently went on. And then they go on talking about this guy, Matthew. Who is he? And we get his name there at the end of that paragraph. "So like Matthew, the idea, whatever this thing that has happened to him." So by the time we get to like the 3rd page of this, we quickly realize that these people are not the best people, right? They're dismissive of Pip. They are talking about Matthew and in a way that's not flattering. So I already have questions. Who are these people? Who is Matthew? What's going on? I just love the way Dickens just layers the questions and the mystery on top of each other. So then Estella is there, and she comes for him. And it says, "Now, boy." On my turning round, they all looked at me with the utmost contempt. And, as I went out, I heard Sarah Pocket say, "Well, I am sure. What next?" And Camilla add, with indignation, "Was there ever such a fancy? The idea!" So I think in that case, they're referencing Pip and how weird it is that Miss Havisham has this boy coming to visit. I think this conversation, I was kind of struggling with following it. I don't know if that conversation made sense to you. Feel free to help me out with that one. That, for whatever reason, I was just kind of losing the thread there. So then we get Estella. She's bringing Pip up to Miss Havisham. She torments Pip some more. She says, "Am I pretty?" "Yes, I think you are very pretty." "Am I insulting?" "Not so much as you were last time," said I. "Not so much so?" No. No, she fired when she asked the last question, and she slapped my face with such force as she had when I answered it. Now, said she, you little coarse monster, what do you think of me now? I shall not tell you. Because you are going to tell upstairs, is that it? No, said I, that's not it. Why don't you cry again, you little wretch? Because I'll never cry for you again, said I, which was, I suppose, as false a declaration as ever was made, for I was inwardly crying for her then, and I know what I know of the pain she cost me afterwards. So we have some foreshadowing there. This is awful. Okay. I don't know what to think of this. I mean, and she's 11 years old, I think, at this point. And she's already behaving like this. Maybe I'll have a spoiler section at the end of this video because I have a few thoughts about this. That section is probably going to give us a hint as to what's to come in the book. On their way upstairs, they meet yet another gentleman coming down who says, whom have we here? Asked the gentleman, stooping and looking at me. A boy, said Estella. He was a burly man of an exceedingly dark complexion, with an exceedingly large head and a corresponding large hand. He took my chin in his large hand and turned up my face to have a look at me by the light of the candle. He was prematurely bald on the top of his head, and had bushy black eyebrows that wouldn't lie down but stood up bristling. His eyes were set very deep in his head, and were disagreeably sharp and suspicious. He had a large watch chain and strong black dots where his beard and whiskers would have been, if he had let them. He was nothing to me, and I could have had no foresight then that he ever would be anything to me. But it happened that I had this opportunity of observing him well. Boy of the neighborhood, hey? Said he. Yes, sir, said I. So then he explains himself to the stranger, and he tells him to behave himself. He says, you behave yourself. And so then I asked, does anyone like Pip? Anyone in the story other than Joe? Everyone just seems to pick on him, to mistreat him. And I just feel sorry for this kid. He's brought up to see Miss Havisham again, and they go into another room where this wonderfully descriptive passage about the new room they go into. We get some more detail about who Miss Havisham is and a little bit more about her backstory. It says, the most prominent object was a long table with a tablecloth spread on it, as if a feast had been in preparation when the house and the clocks all stopped together. An epergne, or centerpiece of some kind, was in the middle of this cloth. It was so heavily overhung with cobwebs that its form was quite undistinguishable, and as I looked along the yellow expanse out of which I remember its seeming to grow, like a black fungus, I saw speckled-legged spiders with blotchy bodies running home to it and running out from it, as if some circumstance of the greatest public importance had just transpired in the spider community. I heard the mice, too, rattling behind the panels, as if the same occurrence were important to their interests. But the black beetles took no notice of the agitation, and groped about the hearth in a ponderously elderly way, as if they were short-sighted and hard of hearing, and not on terms with one another. So Miss Havisham introduces him to this table, and at this point I'm like, nope. All the spiders, that description of the spiders running back and forth from this, what we come to learn is a cake, a very dusty, cobwebbed, spider-covered wedding cake. She says it is her bride cake. So then she has Pip walk her around the room. You know, they're doing laps, getting a little exercise. Maybe I hear it's good for the soul. It could only help Miss Havisham. So then the people from downstairs come upstairs. Miss Sarah Pocket is kind of a kiss up. She says, "Dear Miss Havisham," said Miss Sarah Pocket, "how well you look." "I do not," returned Miss Havisham. "I am yellow skin and bone." So she just sets her straight. You know, flattery gets her nowhere. They again talk about Matthew and maybe like they don't want him to be a part of their family anymore or part of their association. But Miss Havisham is very insistent that when she dies, she's going to be laid out on the table with this rotting cake, these spiders covering everything, the beetles on the ground, the rats behind the wall, just ugh. And she says that Matthew will come and see that he will stand at the head of the table, and each other people will stand around the table just to be there to viewing her dead body on this table. We find out that it is her birthday, and she's not very happy about that, but these people come and visit her on her birthday, so she knows that it's her birthday. We find out on this day of the year, long before you were born, this heap of decay, stabbing with her crutched stick at the pile of cobwebs on the table, but not touching it, was brought here. It and I have worn away together. The mice have gnawed at it, and sharper teeth than teeth of mice have gnawed at me. That's a great visual. Something even sharper than mice teeth has gnawed away at Miss Havisham. So she talks about how when she dies, she's going to be laid on this table, which is a lovely thought. And she stands there looking at this table, I feel like almost fondly, like she can't wait to lay there. And he says this room, this atmosphere, the house, everything has had such an effect on him that he says, I even had an alarming fancy that Estella and I might presently begin to decay. And so they play cards. Then again, like last time, he's brought out to the courtyard. His food is placed on the ground. He's fed like a dog, and he wanders about. As he's exploring the grounds, such as they are, he meets a pale young gentleman and who challenges him to a fight. And he goes through this elaborate process of preparing, laying out the rules, all this. And I was thinking at this point, Pip's going to get whipped. But Pip actually handles himself quite well and knocks him to the ground a couple times. All is good. It's so weird why he wanted to fight. Just add that to the list of questions I have. Who is this young man? Why does he want to fight Pip? And all that. So our boy Pip handles himself well and is able to punch the guy to the ground a couple times. Near the end of the chapter, it says, when I got into the courtyard, I found Estella waiting with the keys. But she neither asked me where I had been, nor why I had kept her waiting, and there was a bright flush upon her face, as though something had happened to delight her. Instead of going straight to the gate, too, she stepped back into the passage and beckoned me. Come here. You may kiss me, if you like. I kissed her cheek as she turned it to me. I think I would have gone through a great deal to kiss her cheek, but I felt that the kiss was given to the coarse common boy as a piece of money might have been, and that it was worth nothing. I don't know. My interpretation here is that she watched them fight and it excited her. She's flushed. She sees these, strapping young men, probably still preteens or so, but maybe they're fighting because of her. Maybe they're just fighting because this boy, the pale young gentleman, just likes to do that. In any case, she's flustered a little bit and allows Pip to give her a kiss, which the chapter starts with her slapping him, and now he gets to kiss her on her cheek. Maybe it's one of those kiss, kiss, bang, bang kind of relationships. We'll see how that plays out. So chapter 11 ends part 7, and that was published on January 12th in 1861. So I have some questions here. I want to know more about those 3 people and the gentleman that Pip met, as well as who is that other gentleman that came down from upstairs. I want to know who is the pale young gentleman. I think I remember, but I'm not sure. So I'm kind of excited about this. This is great. It's been a while since I've read this book, but I'm pretty sure I know who that character is. And then why is Estella so mean? Why is she being so mean? I'll talk more about her in our spoiler section, I think. All right, so we go to the next section, part 8, which covers chapters 12 and 13. And we find that Pip is struggling with guilt yet again. He's worried about him being someone from lower class who beat up a gentleman's son. He's worried that perhaps he's going to get in trouble for it. He's going to get arrested for it. That, a gang of rich kids is going to come and beat him up, whatever. He's a little concerned about this. He says, I felt that the pale young gentleman's blood was on my head, and that the law would avenge it. Without having any definite idea of the penalties I had incurred, it was clear to me that village boys could not go stalking about the country, ravaging the houses of gentlefolks and pitching into the studious young of England without laying themselves open to severe punishment. For some days I even kept close at home and looked out of the kitchen door with the greatest caution and trepidation before going on an errand, lest the officers of the county jail should pounce upon me. And then he's trying to clean up from the fighting. He's trying to hide the evidence. He's again being consumed with guilt. And, again, it's the kid who started it, the pale young gentleman who started it. But Pip knows that if there were to be a fuss, he would be blamed because he's poor. So Pip continues to go visit Miss Havisham, and Miss Havisham often asks Pip, "Do you think she's pretty? Does she grow prettier and prettier?" And whenever he would say yes, it says that she would seem to enjoy it greedily. And while they played cards, Miss Havisham would dress her up or put jewels on her hair, make her look prettier, draw attention to her beauty. And he would occasionally hear her whisper, "Break their hearts, my pride and hope. Break their hearts and have no mercy." We get a little more information. We just get a little brief reference to Biddy, who he confides in. He tells Biddy everything, and he says he doesn't know why, but he thinks he knows now. And again, I like how the older Pip breaks into the story and is commenting on his younger self's action. And he then talks about Pumblechook and refers to him as a donkey. I guess I'll be polite. He often comes over to discuss Pip's prospects with his sister, continues to pile into him about remembering to show respect for those who have brought you up by hand. Some time passes, and then as Pip is at Miss Havisham's house, they continue their walks around the room, and Miss Havisham is leaning on Pip. And she said, finally she notices, she says with some displeasure, "You are growing tall, Pip." And I love Pip's response to this. He says, "I thought it best to hint, through the medium of a meditative look, that this might be occasioned by circumstances over which I had no control." And I just love that. It's like, yep, can't help it. She asks him about who he's going to be apprenticed to. And, she inquires about Joe and says she wants to meet Joe. So Pip goes home and tells Joe that Miss Havisham wants to meet with him. Pip's sister, of course, flies into a rage that she wasn't invited, that she's incensed about it. She says these terrible things, that it might have been better for Joe to have married a slave than her, just terrible language, awful things to say and to compare herself to, and just really a dreadful person here. So the chapter ends with them planning to go meet with Miss Havisham. So I'm sure this will go well. Yeah, I can't possibly foresee any potential problems here. So Joe in chapter 13, he gets up and dressed up in his Sunday best. He's just a bundle of nerves. He has no idea how to present himself. So he gets dressed up in his finest. He's trying to spiff himself up. It looks like he messes with his shirt collar, and how they tend to be kind of up more, and it ends up just messing up his hair. He just looks like you'd imagine a simple blacksmith trying to dress fancy. And maybe he should have just been himself and stayed in his own clothes. I like what it says whenever he leaves the forge. It says, "Joe inscribed in chalk upon the door, as it was his custom to do on the very rare occasions when he was not at work, the monosyllable 'hout,' accompanied by a sketch of an arrow supposed to be flying in the direction he had taken." And I like that he spelled it like it sounded. So I guess Joe can write a little bit. He spells out, he's out. He spells it hout. They go into town. They're going to stop at Mr. Pumblechook's house. Pip's sister is dressed in her fanciest clothes. She's like leading this parade. She's very proud, even though she can't go. She's just making a ruckus about it. So Joe and Miss Havisham meet. And when they get there, of course, Estella completely ignores them. And Miss Havisham begins to talk to Joe. But I think Joe, because of his nerves, he answers Miss Havisham's questions to Pip. And it's just all very awkward because he's trying to sound fancy and use big words, and he has no idea how to talk fancy. And it just comes out, half of what he says makes no sense. And unfortunately, Pip is embarrassed by this. He says, "I am afraid I was ashamed of the dear good fellow. I know I was ashamed of him when I saw that Estella stood at the back of Miss Havisham's chair and that her eyes laughed mischievously." So this whole awkward conversation is happening right in front of Pip, and he is mortified, and he's trying to get Joe to snap out of it and talk to Miss Havisham, but it's like his brain just shut down. And I don't know if you've ever been in a situation like that, but it happens, and you start doing something and you can't stop. Yeah. And of course, Miss Estella is watching all of this, and I don't know why, but this part reminded me a little bit of Dudley Dursley whenever Harry Potter would get caught in doing something wrong or getting punished or whatever. He'd be looking on with delight as Harry got punished. So she gives Joe 25 guineas to pay for his apprenticeship, which was unexpected, and sounds like quite a nice little chunk of change for them. She said this is what he's earned coming here and working, walking around with Miss Havisham and playing with Estella. But she tells Joe, she says, "The boy has been a good boy here, and that is his reward. Of course, as an honest man, you will expect no other and no more." So basically she tells him, maybe she mistrusts him, and she tells Joe, "This is a lot, but this is all you're getting. So don't come back looking for more. Pip earned this. It's his to be used for the apprenticeship, and no more." So she cuts off the flow of money before it even starts. So Mrs. Joe and Pumblechook have been speculating that Miss Havisham is going to adopt Pip or name him her beneficiary of her estate or something. That this is the titular Great Expectations that, and so I think they still are holding out hope that this is a good sign that she's paying for his apprenticeship. The hope is there. So when they get back, they're relaying what happened. Joe is trying to pass on the compliments that Miss Havisham wanted to pass along to Mrs. Joe. Says, and of course, Pumblechook continues to act like a pompous git that he knew all of this was going to happen. It was all happening according to his plan. He had it all figured out already and was privy to these secrets. And Pumblechook is just, he's got to be a fun character to play, but man, I couldn't stand being around him. So they go down, they file the papers for apprenticeship, and Pip is officially bound as Joe's apprentice. He's very upset about this. I think he was hoping also that he would be the beneficiary of Miss Havisham's. He says he passed the day. It was a melancholy day that he passed. Everyone else was celebrating. They're excited. This is a good sign. These are good things. These are, this is a lot of money for us. And Pip, as it concludes with chapter 13, he's spent the day being very depressed. He says, "Finally, I remember that when I got into my little bedroom, I was truly wretched and had a strong conviction on me that I should never like Joe's trade. I had liked it once, but once was not now." And that ends part 8, published on January 19th, 1861. So what changed? Pip used to like Joe's trade, but now he's ashamed of it. He's ashamed of Joe. I think he had hopes that this is my ticket out of here. I'm going to be rich. I'm going to be wealthy. I'm going to be a gentleman. I'm going to get out of here and be rescued from my abusive sister and this neglectful situation I'm in. I'm going to learn things. I'm going to be a gentleman. I'm going to do something with my life. And at the end, through all that he went through, he's stuck with Joe. Maybe you know what that's like. Like maybe, you've been in a job you just hated and you had a chance to get a new job, to get out of the rut that you're in and do something different and do something exciting, but it falls through. And then you're just crushed. You're like, I'm not going to be doing this for the rest of my life. I think that's where Pip's at right now. On one hand, I can't say I blame him. Being in poverty is terrible. I mean, wow, news alert there, right? But it's hard, and I get it. But on the other hand, he's with Joe, who loves him dearly, who is so kind to him, so gracious towards him, and if he took time to learn from Joe, I think he'll be okay. I think he'll do well. So we kind of leave Pip in a very depressing place as we close the book for today. But let me know what you thought of these chapters, and we'll keep that discussion going. So the next week's readings are chapters 14, 15, and 16. I think maybe 17 too. I'll have to double check. So just check the schedule below for sure. But I think we're doing 4 chapters this week. Also, I've had some. I hope in the next video I'll have a guest on, and we'll talk about the chapters together. If not, something real soon is going to happen there. I've been talking with a couple of folks. We're just trying to pin down a time to get together on Zoom. So we'll start getting to invite some of you on to talk about this book. Now that the plot is up and rolling, I can't wait to hear what you all are thinking of this as we go through Great Expectations. So this week, do your reading and look forward to hearing your thoughts on it. So with that, I'm going to just talk a couple of spoilers real quick. So if you don't want to hear spoilers, go ahead and close out the video now, and we'll enter the spoiler zone. Okay, so Estella is so awful as a young girl. And I remember being happy that Pip and Estella seemed to get together in the end. Now, as I'm reading this more closely and really seeing her actions towards Pip, at least at this point in the novel, I know we're only 100 pages in, but now I'm wondering, what in the world was I thinking? She is just awful, absolutely awful. Some could say it's not her fault because Miss Havisham is training her to be that way. I'm watching her character more closely now as we read this, and I want to see if that ending that Dickens has or rewrote to make it a little more happier. I want to see if that works still for me. So that's really just the one minor spoiler thing I wanted to talk about. And so if you have anything spoiler related, please feel free to reach out to me. And on the Voxer channel, you can make you can make an audio recording. So if you want to talk spoilers in that, go ahead and make a recording. But she's just the worst. So I don't understand why Pip is so attracted to her, unless she represents, the better life. And because it's kind of like sets up between him and Estella and him and Biddy. I think, if I remember the plot right, that, one represents the fancy life, the educated life, the wealthy life that he wants. And then Biddy represents the simple life, the life of honesty and kindness. So it is so fascinating that Pip doesn't end up with Biddy, and he continues to pursue Estella, even though she treats him like a dog. I mean, literally. So, interesting character. thanks for sticking around for the spoiler zone. And that's all I have for tonight. I look forward to hearing your comments. So you all take care and happy reading. Bye now.